I think, a lot of what we're seeing with the artificial inflation of demand and the suppression of supply feels like the Great Reset. You're familiar with the Great Reset and all that. It's mass social conditioning where if you abruptly come out like Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg in New York said he wanted to tax sodas or whatever. And he was like, we should tax the poor because they're too stupid. If you come out right away and prohibit something, people will revolt. You've taken something from them. But if you just, it's not available. And then over a couple of weeks, people break their routines. And within a month, nobody cares anymore. They forget about whatever that was. You can mass socially engineer people by shutting down the supply for certain things. So you get people, as many people as possible, not to work. You limit the amount of stuff, wait a month, and then people won't be looking for stuff. They'll be completely over it. So it feels like with that and with the housing market stuff, it's very much you will own nothing and you will be happy.
Right. We'll see when we come to a limit. I mean, there's a writer I like very much whose name is Lee Harris. We share a first name. And the argument that he makes is that what a lot of American freedom is about American stubbornness. It's not necessarily people saying all the time, I have these wonderful high ideals. I have these marvelous principles I must live by. It's more like, you can't tell me to do that. I'm just not going to do it. Right?
I think we saw in the past year that more than half the country will just do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last night I had kind of a reckoning where I saw some image of like, if you're not vaccinated, you don't have a vaccine card, you can't come in, like to a restaurant somewhere, some picture on Twitter. And I just resigned myself to all the things that I'll never be able to do. And I'm okay with it. Maybe I'll never go to Europe. Maybe I'll never travel around Asia. Maybe I'll never go back to New York City again.
This was a European restaurant?
I don't know. It was just a picture. It was in English. The sign was. I imagined it was New York City. I don't know for sure. But, sad, but whatever. I'm stubborn.
Right.
They're doing vaccine segregation in a lot of these places.
Right.
It's not outright banning.
Well, a lot of these places, I mean, if you're talking about restaurants in New York, I mean, New York is not in great shape. When you think about what's going to happen, what will the power of New York look like? Will New York have the power to set the agenda like that? A lot of commercial real estate in New York, I assume, is in really bad shape right now. Why? Because people have figured out after 3 decades of talking about telecommuting, people have actually telecommuted, right? They defunded the police. They let rioters run wild in the streets of New York. Without the commercial real estate, how many restaurants are you going to have? So how many restaurants are going to be able to afford, say, unless you have that vaccine, you can't come in here? They'll be like, please come in. We'll sit you at a nice table right here.
Depends on how much of a Karen people of New York are. Because if you get, it's really about the demand. If people in New York are just like, we're not conservatives, we're not Republicans, why aren't you testing for vaccines?
Right.
Vice.com said, we have vaccine passports, why aren't we using them? We should be mandated. People in New York are going to be demanding. They're going to, what I'm worried is they'll go to a cafe and they'll open the door. Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice you don't have any vax testing or Excelsior Pass. No, we don't do it here. I'm not going here. That's unsafe. Right. And then eventually, no, we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll implement that.
I don't know. What are the chances of, New Yorkers like to pride themselves on being very tough and hardy. So what are the chances? Are people going to say like, well, we're going to open up the fireman's bar where people come in here. We got a couple firemen and cops who own this bar, and believe me, you don't have to wear a mask to get in here. Some people don't even wear pants to get in here. So welcome, come on in.
I guess it just depends on, you look at the conformity of the modern left, and it's also because people who are more likely to be conservative or at least they were liberals who became disaffected. They left these places.
Yeah,
they leave New York, they leave LA, they leave Chicago, and so the people who remain are the culty, fall in line, do whatever they're told.
A lot of them, though, they've moved out to places like Connecticut, or they've moved out to Long Island, or they're just hiding in their apartments. They're not going out at all. They're barely going out at all.
If you look at everything that happened last year, it's very much a restriction on supply and forcing people to move out of cities. It's amazing. I mean, you have this this great reset from the World Economic Forum where it says in 10 years you will own nothing, you'll be happy. Then you get all these you should eat the bugs articles. All that you don't want to buy a house. Don't buy a house. Just be a renter for the rest of your life and don't have a family. Don't have kids.
Yeah, the bugs articles actually I kind of get a kick out of that because it just seems so absurd and it seems so over the top. It actually seems, who I read those bugs articles and I think that they're actually gooning the tech guys because a lot of those guys in Silicon Valley are so hyped up on hygiene. Whenever I read those articles, I imagine they're actually talking to Bill Gates, right? Bill Gates is grossed out by beef. What is he thinking about eating cicadas?
Yeah.
So actually, I get a kick out of those.
Yeah,
pieces.
but you know, when the Great Reset, I mean, it's happening now. When they take away the beef, I shouldn't say take it away, 'cause I don't think they're going to ban beef. I think what's going to happen is we're already facing beef and chicken shortages. It's just becoming economically difficult to perform for whatever reason, be it regulatory or otherwise. Well, I assure you, like, have you seen the movie V for Vendetta?
Oh yeah, sure.
When Natalie Portman's in V's headquarters and she's like, "Is this real butter?" And he's like, "Yes." She's like, "Where did you get it?" And he goes, "From Chancellor Sutler's, private train carriage or whatever." Yeah, the elites.
Right.
No, they're gonna have the sweetest, juiciest grass-fed filet mignon, and you are going to be eating cell-grown, fatless ground chuck.
Right. Is it in Soylent Green, or is it in one of the Planet of the Apes movies where Charlton Heston comes upon a beautiful strawberry? I think it's just a single strawberry. Yeah, right.
But that's Planet of the Apes then, right? Because Heston was in Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, he was also in Soylent Green, though. Remember
okay.
that? Yeah, he's that's right. And he's
I've never seen it.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. And he's got the great scene at the end of Planet of these.
Was the movie
really
called
done
Soylent
it?
Green?
I think yeah, sure.
What's that?
With
The movie was called Soylent
Edward
Green?
G. Robinson. Oh yeah, it's
So long ago, I haven't seen it.
Oh
so
yeah,
long. I was
it's
a little
big,
kid.
especially now with people freaking out about beef, and it's great.
Do you
great
hear
fun movie?
You hear Starbucks is having shortages of like lids, cups, syrups, apples.
No. For what?
There's mass shortages across the board. I'll tell you, I saw this story today. It said Starbucks facing shortages across the nation, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna brag because if you've been watching this show, I've been warning about the shortages that are coming. So a month ago or longer, maybe even 2 months ago, I was like, hey, something really weird's happening. There's meat shortages, but it's only being reported in local markets. Like you look at Omaha local news and they're like, hey, we got no meat. But nationally, no one's saying anything about it. All of a sudden now the stores are starting to pop up. Chicken and beef shortages. Starbucks is the shortage of plastic goods, cups, lids. They're saying people are coming into Starbucks, they can't get their favorite drinks. There's no mocha. Someone sent me a photo from a Starbucks in the DC area, and it's just like there's like a list on the door saying like we're out of these things, and it's just like nothing. They have nothing. They have coffee. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a great beginning to like a zombie apocalypse movie.
Yeah,
There's
here,
no
hold that.
plastic. I can't get my mocha.
Well, here's something I was really surprised about today. I got I picked up some gum at the airport coming in, and there was a sign at the cashiers, and maybe you guys have heard of this. I have not. There is now a national coin shortage. Did you know
Yeah, it's been
that?
going on for a year.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
of it.
And
over
I
a year.
just heard about it.
Wow. That's
It's really weird stuff happening.
Coincidence.
Really,
Continuing.
How does
Wow.
that
Weird stuff.
happen? What is the explanation for the national coin shortage?
They probably want to make
Cash.
ammo. Maybe they're pulling
Yeah,
the
yeah,
copper off
yeah.
the pennies. Although
Right.
they're mostly zinc.
yeah,
aren't they?
for a jacket, copper
Interesting.
jacket.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think what's in
Interesting.
nickel is,
Well,
is zinc and nickel, I think.
I think they don't use copper anymore. Because it's too valuable.
Yeah.
Now they're using zinc and other.
Zinc.
other-
Most nickels are like 95% zinc, and then
Yeah.
they're coated in nickel now. They used to be pure nickel.
But a shortage, I mean,
crazy
this is
thing.
just bizarre.
I came up with
Interesting.
people just not using cash, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, people are ordering everything.
I
They're
know.
going on Amazon.
I've seen that too.
Yeah.
People freak out now. People freak out sometimes when you hand them
Germs.
dirty.
Yes,
I'm like, oh, I'm
absolutely.
sorry.
Whether it's intentional or not, it's very much a massive societal transformation. So it could just be, geez, this pandemic happened, and then all of a sudden, these big shifts cause massive societal change. It's interesting when you read about the Great Reset, they talk about the conspiracy theory of it, and I can't figure out what they're accusing of being a conspiracy theory. So if you look up the Wikipedia page for the Great Reset, it's like the Great Reset is a proposal from the World Economic Forum and international, interests that are advocating for a reset of global capitalism to change the behaviors of people and yada yada, instill a more stakeholder-focused view of the world, and save the planet. There's a big list of things they want, and then it says there's a section that says conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually say what's a conspiracy about it.
Right.
It's like many people on the far right claim there's a conspiracy theory. And I'm like, okay, if you just told me there's literally wealthy elites, the Davos group, advocating for these things that are literally happening, I'm not sure what you're accusing of being the conspiracy theory in this. I don't know where that's at. It's like, this is literally a thing.
Yeah.
Now, I guess the conspiracy theory is that they faked COVID or whatever, which, I don't think that's ridiculous. I think we're learning now with lab leak stuff. It seems like a big screw up on their part, on the part of the Wuhan lab and Fauci's funding and all that stuff. But they're certainly exploiting the crisis for some kind of great reset.
Yes, absolutely. Having some experience as being called a conspiracy theorist, having reported on Russiagate, and having reported what really happened, that the FBI spied on Donald Trump, that this is what was going on. Donald Trump is not a Russian agent, is not a Russian spy. Yeah, basically whenever they're using the label conspiracy theorist, they're using it to smear someone, and not the person necessarily as much as the argument, right? So anyone who holds this opinion, anyone who makes this argument is a lunatic. Needs to be dismissed.
I want to make a correction about the pennies and nickels. Pennies are made of zinc, coated with copper. Nickels are made of a 75% copper, 25% nickel alloy.
All right.
Oh, that's a lot of copper.
Yeah.
Aren't they worth more in copper than they are in nickels now? Like
Wow.
as currency?
That sounds right.
Oh my! Maybe that's why there's a coin. Probably.
That's right.
Yeah,
They've got to figure it out.
I mean, that's always been. I think. The metals are worth more than the pennies themselves. I was reading that. I don't. What's copper? What copper's currently at? I don't know. I think I was reading somewhere a few years ago. It was like a nickel, which is the coin, has a certain amount of copper, which is worth like 7.5 cents.
What?
Or like 7 cents. But the nickel itself is only worth 5. So it's illegal to do this, my understanding. Like melting
it's worth
down.
about 7 cents a nickel.
That's what it says.
That's what this says.
A nickel's metal is worth 7
ridiculous.
cents.
How interesting.
Wow.
Is that what it says?
Yeah. According to thefuntimesguide.com. I've never heard of it, but yeah.
When was the last time
7
anyone's
cents.
held a nickel, to be honest?
Yesterday.
I haven't.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I haven't in a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
My
for
son
me.
just got a piggy bank with 7 pennies. Those are the only 7 pennies in the house.
No. It's only been about 8 months. I have a bag of change for my piggy bank.
Well, this is a way to keep up with inflation. If we can just start treating those coins as 7 cents worth, they don't have to be worth 5 cents. Who says they have to be worth 5 cents?
Why they were metal.
Yeah.
But
But just change the value of the coins.
Used to be nickel.
Quarter gets you 30 cents. A nickel gives you 7.
Used to be silver. You can buy bags of old silver American currency and it's worth way more. That's a really weird thing. I was reading stories about how people would like seek out specific nickels, melt them down.
Dude, it
Get the copper out, you make money.
It sounds like they are doing that.
Think about what that means. Again, I'm pretty sure it's illegal, so you don't do this.
Right.
But you could go to a bank and be like, I would like all of your nickels. I just need nickels. It's an arcade machine I got back home. So here's $100. Give me the nickels, and then you get
That's right. You melt
2
them
cents
down.
per nickel.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is
Free money.
Illegal to destroy currency.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
federal
They-
property.
on purpose.
Well, then I've got a different idea, kind of a variation on this. I in Washington D.C., they charge you 5 cents at the cashier if you want a bag. That's why a lot of people take their own bags from home. But I figured I would set up a little stand in front of a lot of the major supermarkets selling plastic bags for 3 cents.
Hey, there
Undercut them and basically wipe out Giant and stuff like
They like that.
With-
Yeah.
That's possible.
What do
3
you think?
cents.
Yeah, 3 cents.
Love
Hey,
it.
you need a
Yeah,
bag.
that's right.
Come over here.
They got
Oh
a bag
my
for
God.
3 cents.
That's right.
Yeah, you need an umbrella too.
There you go.
This
Yeah.
sounds similar to the book that you're working on, or a lot of the stuff you're studying about. I wonder, have you studied the global reset, the Great Reset?
Through different, again, my main focus the last couple of years has been the corruption of our elites. So yes, absolutely, the way that our elites have been targeting the American public. Absolutely, this is definitely an important aspect of this.
Have you been able to track any connections to any of that stuff?
What I would say is, again, my main interest right now is looking in particular at our elites in China, right? So if we're talking about different combinations, in a sense, the Chinese Communist Party is the platform for the global realignment. If you're talking about the Great Reset, the Chinese, that's why it was very important to get the Chinese into the World Trade Organization in 2001. That's why it was very important for the Clinton administration in 1994 to de-link human rights from trade. And I want to make clear, while I think that the way the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party treats its own citizens is something that we should be paying attention to, our main focus as Americans and our leaders should be on American human rights and how Americans are treated. My point, however, is when you saw, and this was bipartisan, it wasn't just Bill Clinton. Remember, this started with Henry Kissinger, right? This started with Kissinger reaching out to China, the opening there. So yes, I think we've seen steady progress, starting certainly exaggerated in 1994. I think that our elites, basically American elites specifically, gave up on American democracy, and this was the deal they made. China happened to be the great power with an enormous cheap labor force. But absolutely, this is what's been going on. It's not by accident. It's purposeful, right? And you go back and you look at the different reports from the period. If you see what's still happening now, right? No one is embarrassed at this point when they talk about the Great Reset as a conspiracy theory. No one is embarrassed to say these different things. Joe Biden wasn't embarrassed on his first day in office to get rid of the Keystone Pipeline.
Right.
None of them are embarrassed about it. How much this is going to hurt the American people. They're all very upfront about it. They don't care.
It's amazing. I mean, this past election was the country itself versus subversion of the country. You had people genuinely convinced Trump was the subversion when Trump was actually the pro-America guy. Joe Biden is the very much, I could care less about Americans. Kamala Harris, I could care less about Americans.
Right.
They don't care at all.
Right. The language, one of the most important things I think that's happened as part of the political and part of the spiritual and part of the intellectual moves against us, the way that the language has changed, right? I know that this is something that you guys are interested in, which is fascinating to me, the idea of left and right, liberal and conservative, how these things have flipped around. Well, I'm sorry, how is it a liberal or a left-wing value to start siding with what the FBI is doing to American citizens? Since when is that a left-wing value? Since when is it a liberal value to think that immigration, mass illegal immigration that is designed to hurt American working people, including Latinos, right, that this is a liberal thing? Just let people in here and we're going to drive the prices down and we're going to hurt American workers. How is that a liberal thing? None of these things are liberal.
It's one of the greatest de-radicalizations in the history of this country. I mean, I know tons of hackers, former anonymous individuals, the anonymous hacking group, and Antifa, who are posting on Facebook celebrating the FBI. And I comment to them like, I'm glad to hear that you guys have finally come to your senses and you respect the federal government and you're in line with law enforcement.
How did this happen? How did it happen? I mean, what do they say?
They just say, yeah, well, Trump's a fascist, so it's good.
Oh,
and I was like, yeah, support the federal government when they go after your political enemies.
Right.
Yeah, so I've been telling you this, right? You support when the FBI goes after political dissidents. It's fantastic. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.